to Art. Conversations about the creative process.
With your host, Christy Gordon. I'm so excited to announce that registration for the Visionary Artist Master Program 2025 is now open. Learn how to find your artistic voice, recover a sense of play to your work, develop a cohesive body of work, and launch a successful art career. Registration is only open for a few weeks, so click the link below to find out more. And today we'll be talking with artist Halie Torris about how to make and market limited edition prints. Halie is a full-time artist based out of Maryland who makes about 90% of her income off of her print sales. Well, welcome, Halie. It's so good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I have so many artists that I work with that have been asking me about prints for so long, and I know you make a large percentage of your income from prints. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started making prints of your beautiful paintings?
Yeah, of course. I started making prints 4 years ago. Like, it was never really in my mind to do so, but I had a friend who was like, you should really start making prints. And I was sharing on TikTok and Instagram, and my videos were doing well. And I had a lot of people asking about them. So I put them on my website, and it just kind of happened where I started progressively selling more and more and got to really step off and be an independent artist because of prints, really. I do sell my originals as well, but prints have been a huge part of my business and something that I take a lot of pride in as well now. But yeah, that was sort of the beginning of my print journey, I guess.
It's so amazing. And what percentage of your income would you say do you get from prints at this point?
I'd say like 85 to 90%.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really freeing for an artist to have like a good source of income. It's so important. And then you have like a really good process for every step of the journey, like for prints established at this point. Do you want to talk first about like what kind of prints, all the ins and outs? Like, I know when I've looked into prints, it's like, do I do it on watercolor paper or on canvas, giclée, signing? There's so many questions.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a bit about where you've landed?
Yeah. So there's obviously a lot of options, and that can sort of be debilitating too, because it's like, how do I narrow it down? I have a local printer that I work with. It's women owned, and they're really great with showing me what the prints look like. If you can get test prints and see the colors in person, I find really, really important, just so that you can see them up close and personal rather than on a screen, which is usually where I see my work. It's just on my phone, and trying to convey that to people in the best way possible. But I'd recommend, finding like a local printer that can help you and show you what options that they have, because there's, like I said, so many different options with papers. I like giclée ink, the ink system, because that's the highest quality and it's the most archival. And it's essentially the exact same colors as the originals, are the closest that you can get to the paint itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I use a giclée paper. I also do canvas prints, which are very popular as well, because those are a bit more durable. So you got the texture. And for like watercolors, I would recommend like a matte paper, because those translate better. It really depends on what your painting style is and what's going to translate the best.
Oh, true. I remember when we talked before, because I recently had you on our inner circle call. You were talking about, I think, maybe paintings with lots of darks sometimes work better on glossy paper. Is that what you're saying? I'm trying to remember that. Yeah, so I see what you mean about how there's so many considerations.
Yeah, I've found with some of my darker works where dark blues or darker shadows in general with higher contrast, the semi-gloss or glossy works best, just because in the matte, the way the ink is transferred onto the paper, it can make it a bit cloudier, and it can, like, the white of the paper can dilute those really rich darks. So I tend to go with that glossier look for the darker paintings. But truly watercolors. I've seen some watercolor artists that also work with my local printer, and they look amazing on matte just because it looks very similar to the way that obviously watercolors applied to paper. But
I can picture that. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, that's so interesting. There's so many considerations. And what do you find in terms of size? Like what sort of systems, what strategies do you have in terms of choosing a size?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's another question I feel like I get asked from anyone that's interested, just because I like to add a bunch of different options based on my collector, my consumer that's, looking at prints. Some people really love smaller prints and buying like multiple of those. So I have anywhere from like 8.5 by 11 up until like 30 by 36 or larger. I think I can print to like a 42-inch width. So, you know, um,
That's nice to have the options. I can picture it would look really nice to have like a row of them together. So I can see why even the smaller sizes probably do really well. And
yeah,
then what do you
that.
like price them? Like I know that too will be totally different for every artist, but for an artist who wants to get started making prints and maybe they're sort of somewhat new at their art journey, I don't know what would like, I know I'm just throwing a number out into the air, but what would some, you know, beginning
Pricing.
prices be? Yeah.
For like smaller ones, I'd say like 30, between 30 and like 55 or 35 to 55, I've seen for smaller prints. But
Yep.
I feel like a lot of artists sell themselves short at the beginning with pricing, like when you could have higher pricing. Um, just
Yeah,
don't sell yourself short, I would say.
totally. Yeah, totally. Oh, and then also like with limited edition prints, how does that work?
Yes, limited edition. I just started, I mean, over the past year, making most of my painting drops where essentially on my Instagram, I'll drop a painting and have an influx of orders. And I found that when you offer the numbered prints, they do get more traction just because it adds that other element to that more exclusivity to the print. And there's only that limited number that's printed. So you can do like, an edition of 25, or I've done 150 to 250, depending on the size and scale and how many you want to print. Um,
Yeah,
Offering them titled as well, I found does better. Like if you show close-ups of either them numbered, titled, signed. I sign all of mine. I think it's really important for me to have that extra, you know, give that
totally.
personalized touch. I just find that's really important too to consider.
Yeah, I think that's true. And how do you sign them exactly? Like, do you use pen or pencil?
Yeah, so on the matte paper, I prefer pencil. I wish with the only thing I don't like about the semi-gloss is I wish that I could sign in pencil. It just looks
Mhm.
more archival, and I just like the look of it personally better when it's pencil. Um, but you can use, an archival pen or marker, whatever's not going to bleed, and what's going to stay on the actual paper, and making sure that it's dry before like you're rolling it. But yeah, on the glossier ones, I use the pen, and then on the matte paper, I'll use pencil. And also with the limited edition, I'd recommend doing certificates of authenticity where you
Oh,
sign. I add like little pieces of paper
yep.
that my printer does, and it's like, 1 out of 75, 2 out of 75 with the title, signature, and then adding like the date too, like Halie
Nice.
Torris fine art or whatever you
Oh,
can add at
that's
the
cool.
bottom, just because it adds that extra little bit that you can have in your order. And I
Totally.
also add, just on to piggyback off of
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah, it's good.
I do add like a thank you card, which I'd highly recommend just
Oh,
for
I
that.
think that's a nice touch. Yeah, well, that kind of leads us into like what, like you do a lot of the shipping and packaging yourself at this point. What do you put inside the actual shipment? Because as you're
Yeah.
preparing them with all your personal touches, all your
Yeah.
love.
Yeah, I add a thank you card where I ask them to, if they'd like to take a photo of the print whenever it's framed and share it with me on Instagram, because that's another way for marketing as well. And just to see your art up in somebody's home, it's pretty cool. So whenever
Yeah.
I see them, I just get excited and happy to see the
Oh,
art up, and that, the finished um, piece up and they're in the frame. But it's
yeah,
just a nice way too to share on your story and just to connect with your collectors as well. So I put like a thank you and then ask them to send me a photo and put my Instagram. And then the print itself, obviously, you can I've added stickers before. You can really be really creative with it, whatever you'd like to add. And then in the smaller prints, like from 8.5 by 11 up to 12 by 18, I add like the little plastic,
Oh, covering or something?
yeah, like the seal to seal
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Because those will go in flat mailers, and then
Mm.
anything else goes in like a tube. So I roll them in like a paper and put them in the tube. But those are usually, and then any certificates of authenticity go in there as well.
Oh, that's smart. I can imagine that that keeps them like really safe. And how do you ship them out? Like you get hundreds of orders. What sort of shipping like
Or
company or whatever do you use?
yeah, I really have liked ShipStation. I know that there's a subscription to that, a subscription price, but honestly, at this point, like totally pays for itself, I find, because it automatically takes, I have a Squarespace website and also a Shopify. So they can work with ShipStation. And essentially, what ShipStation is doing is transferring all the addresses over into one platform where you just click and print out the labels, which I use a Dymo 4XL label printer. I've had it for 4 years. It's been like, you don't have to change any inks. It just prints the label out and you can just stick it on the package. But definitely get a label printer. ShipStation, I highly recommend. There's like Shippo, which is free. I forget the other ones, but I highly recommend ShipStation.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so I bet that helps a lot. Like, have you ever had a drop that you've done that you were really surprised by the number of orders that you got?
Yeah, where I was looking through like, oh my gosh, I have to write all these down and make sure I have the right number because I
Oh,
also print to order. So, which is really nice to have with like my local printer. There's no like minimum requirement. I just kind of tally them up and send my orders in weekly for them to print. But yeah, it's really nice to see all the orders come in and not have to like transfer different addresses or things like that. Like it makes it pretty simple to see all of them under one platform.
yeah, that's very smart. You need a system in place. Like I know you've already told me, but to share with our audience, what is the biggest run that you've ever had?
From like uh, it's between like 250 and 300 in like a couple days, which was like a ton. Like
Oh.
it was a lot.
Yeah,
But
so that makes a lot of sense that you need to have a good system in place and it's so nice that you're still able to, do it yourself and put these personal touches in. I bet that means a lot to everyone that like orders them. Mhm.
yeah, I don't know, I want it to be special. Like when you're ordering from an artist, you're ordering like it's, a small business and it's everything to us. I want to give that back and, you know, add those personalized touches to them.
Yeah,
I'm not Amazon. Like I'm really putting in
totally, totally.
yeah, there's an emotion and it's really
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like someone's investing in your ideas and what's important to you. And I think that's just I sometimes have to pinch myself about those things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it really means a lot to get like support when we're doing something that's so meaningful to us. Like yeah. Um, and so you do basically like what's called like drops or whatever, right? So it's like,
Yes. Reveal days as like another drops, reveals, whatever you want to call it.
yeah. And so you'll kind of tell us a bit about how you do that. I know you use social media a lot and you kind of build up to it. Yeah, tell us about your process for doing a drop for a new print.
Of course. Yeah, so I'm very passionate about storytelling. The whole within my paintings in general, there's always narratives, but I want to build on that even more with how I'm sharing and when I choose to share. When I'm teasing, I like to tease my paintings. Like I don't show it until, it's actually done.
Yeah.
just find it exciting to kind of tease people up into the point where they're like, oh my gosh, I need to see this painting. And then I do like a video with, I'd like to do a lot of video editing and cut it in certain ways that's, more cinematic and really invites you into my process. So I'll start, from start to finish, or I'll show little close-ups depending on what the painting is and whether or not I have to censor it. But it's just basically I work weeks or days, however many days I want to tease it before I share it. And it just becomes this thing where I drop a painting on a specific day, whether or not I set a date for that on my stories and like set reminders, or I just randomly decide to drop it, which has been honestly more successful when I'm just like randomly have the intuitive feeling to drop something and I do it. But yeah, they just become these days where essentially I share the video, I share photos, I'm just kind of interacting in my comments and my stories, asking people what their favorite details are, going live and talking about the painting and answering questions. And it just becomes this sort of day where I'm very extroverted when at all other times I feel the opposite. And so they take a lot out of me, but they're worth it for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Oh, and I can like relate. I'm sure so many artists can.
Yeah.
You mentioned too, like the important topic of having to like censor a bit on Instagram. It's such a bummer that we have to do this, but when we are working with nudes, of course, Instagram could like shadow ban us for a couple weeks, or even sometimes in some cases, like close our accounts if it really deems us.
Oh, don't say that. That scares me.
I know, it's scary. So it's like we're kind of forced to censor, but you have some really creative ways of, still being able to create the work that you want and not having to censor yourself in that way, obviously, which we definitely never want to do as artists, but then managing to share it on Instagram in ways that like work for the algorithm. Share. I know you have some good tricks for that.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about that.
Of course. Yeah. It's been a struggle, but a challenge. And I try to approach it like in a way that I'm just grateful to share my work in any way that I can get it across. But it definitely can sometimes be a little, it can be get you down. But there are ways I've found, whether it's like I'm slightly in front of it and teasing it in that way where it's in the background. I found if it's at an angle, the algorithm doesn't pick up on that. Like I made a video the other day where this same painting was getting shadow banned, or just it was not pushing the video, and I just slightly tilted it where it was slightly at an angle in the background, and it got like over 100,000 views on TikTok. And I'm like, yes, I beat it. Like I beat the system.
That's good to know, actually.
But yeah, when it's like in the background or you're standing in front of it, I've also dropped paintings where I just show little snippets and crop it and just say like, go to Twitter for the reveal, because Twitter, you can post literally whatever, so they don't care. Or it's on my website and you can like link them to that. And I link it all in my little link tree, Squarespace tree thing in my bio.
Yep. Oh, that's smart. That's interesting that I didn't know you could post whatever you want on Twitter. That's
anything. It does not get censored hardly. So I just posted literally the entire painting, and
that's good.
Fine. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and then you're touching now, like how to funnel people into buying the prints or whatever. So of course you have like, I think like bio site or something on your, or which one is it again?
Bio site.
And then they kind of go to your website and you use, I forget what you said, Shopify or Square or something like that. That's a bit about the process of like, then people buy the prints.
Yes. So I use, the bio site, which is like an extension of Squarespace. It's kind of a new thing that they have where you can make a really pretty landing page and have your picture, different buttons. And I try to make it as easy as possible, because it doesn't matter how easy it looks to people. Like it can say prints in all capital letters and, they're still going to be like, where are your prints? Like,
no.
In my bio.
I know.
Link in bio. I can't tell you how many times I've had to comment that. Check the link in my bio.
Yeah, but me too.
It's just like, how can I get them there as quickly as possible? And that's like within the bio site. You can set different links. You can even do like quick links where it's like a maroon print, which is a title of one of my paintings, or you can even do like the sizing and do different buttons for that. Just trying out what works. Funneling people in with discounts is always, whether it's a simple shipping discount. I've found that if I have a discount up there, however small, I have just steady orders because people like to use them. And I can relate because when I'm shopping, I'm always looking for discount codes. But
Totally.
uh, that's been really helpful as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then you have like multiple sizes. That's so smart. So when people then go to your website, describe how it's set up, if you will, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, who wants to kind of.
Yeah. So I have all my prints under each specific paint. Like I have the painting, and you click that and you can basically go anywhere from 8.5 by 11 up to, like I said, the larger sizes. And it's basically a page with all my prints on it. Pretty simple.
Yep.
I think specifics of the website, which I think I need to update my website actually.
Oh, we always are having to update the
Now that you say this, I'm like, actually, I should update my
website. I need to update it
too. Basically, like my landing page, it says like art prints here. Like there's a button on my actual website page, but then there's another button that's just for prints that I have. So depending on where they land, you can click it and then you're going to be led to the prints. My most recent paintings are like on the top, and then towards the bottom are my older ones. I also have bundled options. Like that could also be
nice.
A good idea if you have like a set, and if you want to sell, 3 at a time, and give them a little bit of a discount on that. That could also be an option. Really, you can do whatever you want, which is pretty cool. But I've noticed bundles can work as well.
Yeah, that's nice. And it would look really nice hanging in a home, like with a few, together. That's such a good setup. Because it's amazing because at this point you make most of your sales through social media. You're not doing like email marketing and stuff like that. You're, really mostly using like TikTok and Instagram, right?
Yeah. I should implement email marketing. You're reminding me I need to do that.
Still, though, you do like really well. I mean, what would you say for someone who has a smaller like presence on social media? I know that's kind of outside of your realm because you actually but do you have any suggestions for artists that want to get into prints, but maybe they don't have like a big Instagram or TikTok?
Yeah, of course. I feel like before I had my TikTok, that's sort of where I was at, just kind of like, how do I even start if I don't have a lot of means to do so? And especially with reach, like that can also be frustrating when you don't feel like you're reaching the audience that you could be reaching. I think like whenever I'm struggling with that, I always just think about at the core of what I'm doing, like, is my work, I think about my work and I think about how I'm creating and sharing that in an authentic way. Cause I think that, I'm never like, and when I'm selling prints, I'm not like, I'm thinking about selling prints. I'm thinking about selling or just sharing my story and the stories that are within my works. And that sort of, people want to be a part of that and they see themselves in that. And I think that's why they buy the prints. Not necessarily like I'll repost and like put prints in a little button, but I think focusing on what you can control in your work and how you're sharing it, making content if you can, in whatever way, whether that's through photos or if you're comfortable with video, just focus on the stories that you're sharing and like your work. I think that's important. And it doesn't cost that, like, just start with smaller options. Like you don't have to go and be like offering 20 different sizes, just starting small and seeing what people either like or dislike.
Totally. That's true. And the way you do it is really smart because although it's a limited edition run, you don't print all of them all at once.
Yeah.
So it's not like a big, you don't have to put all the money down. So that's a good way for people to do it too.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing?
Oh, definitely.
If you, just do like one run, like I'll usually do a test print at the beginning before, and like basically before I release anything, I take photos, taking high quality photos of it, whether it's you signing it up close, showing the quality of the product. like you said, whether it's an edition of 10, whatever, like post that on your social media, on your website, and giving people that image. It also really helps. I forgot to add, you can do mock-ups and frames so people can see what it would look like in their space. And that's
Oh,
also really
nice.
helpful to like purchase either, buying like a $2 mock-up on one of those sites, the graphic design sites where you can pick a frame style and just go into Photoshop and place your image and give people an idea of what it can look like in their space. That's also been helpful.
That's true. And those make good like posts on Instagram. Like they look really
Yeah.
pretty, like really nice because it'll be set in a nice space. Actually, what are some of the names of those things? I see people using them, but I've never used them myself. Can you think of the name of any of those?
I've used Envato Market,
Nice.
Envato. I've been on their site before and used some of their mock-ups. And I think it was like under $5 to download, and you can like swap out the file in Photoshop, which is nice.
That is nice. Yeah, that's a really good tip. And actually touching on photography, which you touched on, but we never did talk about like how do you get the images that you print? I know there's different options.
Oh yeah.
There's that go.
So yeah, for smaller prints, smaller paintings, you can scan them. I've done that before with different sketches that I've had. But if
Nice.
it's like a big painting of mine that's like 4 foot by 5 foot, or even like 30 by 40, whatever sizing, I usually paint
Yeah.
larger scale. And if you paint larger scale, it might be harder because you'd have to scan them and they'd have to grid them together. And those scans can
Oh,
cost like
yeah.
a couple $100 sometimes,
Wow.
depending. I have a Canon camera and I set it up under natural lighting and basically to get the exact coloring and take photos with my tripod, which has been really helpful. And then I
Yeah.
use that file and turn it into a TIFF for the lady that works at the print shop, and I send those to her, and we kind of judge based on those photos and when they're printed, judging them next to the original and seeing how accurate they are.
Totally.
But it's
Yeah.
really important. Photography is a
Yeah.
huge, important
It
part of it.
is. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what I've done the few times that I've made prints is I did go the photography route too. I don't know. I think the same reason the print like the painting was just a bit too big to scan. And yeah, and your prints look like so accurate. What about for someone who doesn't maybe they don't live in a town that has a print shop? Can you think of any good online printers, even though it's way better if you can find someone that you can go into and see like it, of course, but
Yeah, I print from home. I've used before, and they do high quality prints, and I think you can order smaller batches from them. Well, I print from home all one, like I print
oh,
from home.
cool. Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, just in case anyone can't find what to see.
There's,
Right.
yeah, there's a lot out there, even just like researching and seeing what could work for you. There's so many different, I feel like there's so
Yeah,
many options out there.
for sure. Wow. Well, this is so helpful. I know there's just so much interest in prints. When we had you on our inner circle call, there was like more questions than I've ever seen.
Really? Oh, I
Oh
love
yeah, I was just like,
that.
wow. There was a
People, they
lot
were
of
waiting.
and you answered them all and people wrote to me afterwards like that was so great. Thank you so
Oh, I
much.
love that. That makes me
Yes,
happy. I'm like, I hope it was helpful because I just
it
feel like
was.
I just go on tangents about prints. I could just talk about them
That is a
forever.
good thing.
I
um,
think the one thing is like just don't get discouraged.
yeah,
Like don't get overwhelmed, even though that's like
yeah.
hard to do with
Yeah, for sure. Find some way to, like you say, even just start out with a smaller, just to get started in a comfortable way, and then you can build on that or something.
yeah, that's basically what I did too. I remember having like a couple up, and then the woman that worked at the print shop that I'm currently at, she's like, "Why don't you just put them all up?" And I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Because people will want them." And I'm like, "Okay, let me try." And then I sort of just put them all up there and just said, "Okay, we'll see." But
Totally. I think that's great. And I love that you have different sizes and different options. Like it can be on canvas, it can be on paper. It just gives people. Oh, and you even sometimes do embellished ones, don't you? How
Yes,
does
I was
that
gonna say,
process
I
work?
forgot to mention
Yeah.
that. If you want to offer like the high, like I say, the highest quality print I can offer is my hand embellished giclée canvas prints. So this could be a really good option for you if you want to offer, that more exclusive item, and one that could be different in a way than the original. Like you can make it one of a kind because essentially what you're doing is painting over top of it, whether you want to use acrylic. I've used acrylic paint, but for my oil paintings, I've used a mixture of the original paint that I've used on that painting. So you're
Mhm.
getting that exact coloring on top of the print. And I mix it with an impasto medium, so it adds a little bit of texture. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah, it looks really pretty. And you can even like experiment with, I've done gold paint on one of my paintings, Daisy, where it has that reflective, glittery gold
Wow.
tones in certain areas, and it's really pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really pretty. That would be like very nice. There's so many good ideas. So where can people find out more about you? I'm sure people want to check out your Instagram and look at your beautiful prints and the way
Oh.
you're releasing things and you have a podcast. Yeah, tell us more about pe where people can find you and follow you.
I am on pretty much every social media, mainly on TikTok and Instagram, just my name at Halie Torris. I'm on Twitter. I have a couple YouTube videos up. I'm trying to do some longer form content. And I have a podcast called the Sapphic Studio Podcast, where essentially I do some interviews and I talk and do studio updates about what I'm working on, some of my inspiration, and generally just like check-ins more with myself about my work and what's happening, because there's always things happening in my studio.
Totally.
Um, Always working on something, but that's
Totally.
you can
Oh.
find me.
Well, I'll definitely include the links in the description and just thank you so much. I'm so excited to get to talk to you, and I know everyone's going to enjoy this so much. So thank you so much, Halie.
For having me.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Don't forget to click the link in the description to learn more about the Visionary Artist Master Program 2025 and sign up today.